guys, having just spent 5 weeks in the Philippines, we thought we would come and share some tips and tricks and share our itinerary and our thoughts about our time there and perhaps what we would have done differently. And if that helps anyone out for a future trip, then that would be great.
So we're going to start with our accommodation for 5 weeks, mostly budget hotels.
Yes, so the criteria that we had for our budget hotels was that they would have around a 7 or 8 star rating on booking.com with good reviews. We use booking.com because they offer free cancellation, which was also important. The rooms also needed to have a pool because of the hot climate and air conditioning. And our budget was around $35 to $55 a night on average. We did spend a little bit more in some places, but you can also get cheaper if you're willing to compromise on comfort a little bit.
Yeah, so what we found was that the further out from the main areas you went, the lesser ratings, the smaller the rooms, the less features. You can get them as low as $20 a night. It's all dependent on what you want as a standard, I guess. And I guess given our age, we're not young, we're not backpackers, obviously. We just wanted something with a little bit of comfort, and we wanted that flexibility to be able to change plans. So
Exactly.
you can get it cheaper if you pay up front, but for us, it just makes it easier to have free cancellation. And we have taken advantage of that quite a lot, actually.
We've changed a few plans around.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what to expect? Mostly when you get cheaper accommodation, you won't get basic stuff like washing machines or refrigerators, things like that. So don't expect a safe in every place to store your valuables. Don't expect a kettle. Sometimes it's just a hot water dispenser, or in one case it was a thermos.
That surprised us a lot actually with the accommodation in the Philippines, because most of Southeast Asia that we've stayed in previously, you do get at least a fridge and a safe. So yeah, that did surprise us. Also not great water pressure, so I couldn't even wash my hair sometimes because there just wasn't enough of a stream to even do that. It was more a trickle, so that was surprising. And yeah, but the best places that we stayed that were all under $100 was definitely Siki Hall was probably the best one. That was the lovely Fig View Resort there in Siki Hall.
Yeah, Sunset View Resort, and it was definitely that. Takes the first prize for the best accommodation that we stayed in at the Philippines. Port Barton comes a very close second, but that's more to do with location and how we felt like family. It was a small little family-run resort. Green Views was just such a paradise for us. We did nothing almost, and it was the best lot of nothing we did in the Philippines.
Yeah, it was good. Our next favourite was probably Coron, where we stayed at the Bangkawang Mansion. And that's because, again, the hospitality there was amazing, but the place, even though it was in sort of the heart of Coron, it was fairly quiet. We were away from most of the noise. The room was really nice compared to where we had come from in El Nido. They even went out of their way to set up some birthday celebration for Pete when we entered the room, had balloons and a towel cake and everything. So that was really nice. So that was just the first day we arrived. So yeah, a nice pool and nice facilities, and the food was good at that restaurant too.
Yeah, it was really good. We ate there a lot. Yeah. But with the good, obviously, comes the bad, and we've experienced probably 2 bad places along the way. The first one was in Bohol, a place called
Panglao Chocolate
Hills Resort and Hostel. Yeah. It could quite easily be renamed the Chocolate Hills Hostel. It's a bit of a far cry to call it a resort. Basically what annoyed us about this place was because the little huts that you stay in surround the pool, and because the pool surrounds the dining area, and because all of the backpacker hostel area is behind everything else, they want to be polite and obviously not disturb the peace for all their backpacker hostel friends. So they all congregate in the dining area, and being that the huts have louvered windows,
very thin walls,
you're kind of kept awake for most of the evening because of their carry-on, and they're loud, and it just didn't do it for us. On the surface it was nice, but once you actually stayed there, the focus is more on, I guess, the hostel side of things. Vegan restaurant is also open to public as well as guests.
So that was, unfortunately, the setting was nice, but the room itself and that kind of environment was a little bit off-putting.
Then there was El Nido.
And then there was El Nido, which was by far our worst accommodation. We stayed at the Cliffside Cottages, and we stayed in a deluxe room. So the Cliffside Cottages themselves looked quite cute, very small, but they were fan only. And because we wanted air conditioning, we went for the deluxe room. But deluxe was definitely not what this room was. It had three beds in it for the two of us. So it was a nice big room that would have fit lots of people in. But it just wasn't very nicely presented. The beds weren't even made. We had to literally make our own bed.
Toilet leaked.
Yeah, the toilet leaked.
Ensuite basin leaked.
The basin, it smelt constantly.
Both from the sewer side.
Yeah. Don't even talk to me about water pressure in there. You would have been better off using the toilet hose to shower with, honestly.
The air conditioner filter clean light was on continuously. There was no smoke alarm. There was a place for it, but it didn't exist. It's the only place that we've wanted to get out of, and we did one day early. So
the staff were friendly enough.
Yeah.
But just the facilities there, and the fact that it was supposed to be a deluxe room, and it wasn't necessarily cheap for that price compared to what we paid
Australian
elsewhere.
a night.
So it wasn't the greatest.
Anyway,
but that's accommodation.
Enough of the bad. Let's move on. Let me just scroll down our notes. We've got our notes in front of us. You can't see them, but we can. Travel in general, getting from A to B. Hasn't that been a mission in the Philippines?
We always knew that the Philippines was going to be challenging to get around, which is why we had put off coming to the Philippines. We knew that we wanted at least 4 to 6 weeks to be able to do it properly.
We thought we did.
And that it was going to take time to get around, which it does. You've heard of island time. If you've ever been to Fiji or some other islands, you get something called island time. Well, there's Filipino time as well. So, things are never in a rush. Even ferries, you'd think that maybe going on a ferry is quicker than going to the airport and having to be there an hour before, but the same with the ferry. You've got to be there an hour or more before. Oftentimes they're late. They're really uncomfortable. I had romanticised how nice going on these ferries was going to be. I was like, oh yeah, the wind in your hair, going to be up on the deck, we're going to be able to look out and enjoy. That was not the case. Most of the time you're squished in like little sardines in these seats. The worst one was from Bohol to Cebu. That was the one where we were up on the open deck, squished in these little seats. Pete had his knees right up against the chair in front. It was just awful. We couldn't move literally for 2 hours. So not great. Not what I had expected.
No.
As far as ferries go, I do have to shout out to Jamalia from
El Nido to Coron.
Yeah, El Nido to Coron. That was the best one. Originally we had booked on one of the other ferries, and because we decided to change our plans to a day earlier, we couldn't get onto that particular ferry anymore. They wouldn't let us change it without cancelling it. So we ended up booking with Jamalia, and I'm glad we did, because when we got to the port and we saw the ferry that we were supposed to go on, it was tiny and it was so rough, whereas the one that we went on, the Jamalia, was a nice big catamaran. It was still rough and there were people vomiting, and it was legitimately not a very comfortable ride, but it was 4 hours from El Nido to Coron.
Quoted 3 to 3.5.
Yeah, quoted 3 to 3.5. And from what I was reading, the other lines legitimately were taking 5 or 6 hours. And if it says 3.5 hours, it was a complete lie. So we definitely recommend.
And wasn't much more expensive.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely recommend the Jamalia. And we did end up getting a 90% refund on our other one.
Yes,
anyway,
we did.
Good. Yeah, so that was good.
Trikes, we found out later in the piece to ask a local about what the fares should cost. So it wasn't until we got to Coron that we said, to a local, what should it cost to get from A to B? And they said, 20 pesos, 30 pesos each. We'd go out on the street and they'd be like, 150 pesos. And we'd like, no, it doesn't cost that much. And it wasn't until late that we realised that we should have been doing that early on. So if you want to take trikes, when you arrive at your destination, just ask a local how much things should cost and then pay what you think is fair. Now, they're always going to try and get you for more if you've got baggage or you're a bigger person like me, which we quite understand, but don't get ripped off with trikes. To get from island to island, in a lot of cases, we took a plane. We used Cebu pretty much everywhere we went. We had, for the most part, good experiences. It wasn't until our last flight from Coron to Manila that we arrived in Manila and we were told that our luggage was still in Coron.
Yeah, it had been removed from the plane because the plane was overweight.
Yeah, it didn't affect us too much, but we're sort of throwing that out there as a warning that stuff can happen. Mainly because if we had have had a connecting flight, our baggage didn't turn up for
about 2 hours.
2-3 hours later,
Yeah.
which would have made it very difficult to get a connecting flight had we been
So
moving
if you
on.
are connecting through for another flight and you're flying with, this was with Cebu specifically, so if you're flying with them and you're worried about that connection, just make sure that you tell them when you check your bags in that it's very important that your bags make it through to the other end because you'll miss your connecting flight. Because they didn't give us any warning or any ask us permission or anything, they just took them off and that was it. We didn't know until we got to Manila.
Our itinerary. Our itinerary changed a little bit along the way. We were originally planning on spending close to 40 days. We'd planned on 39 days. We even went to the expense of extending our visas when we got to Boracay in the beginning, which cost us 220 Australian odd dollars, because we had planned on spending more time in Manila at the end of it. That worried us a little bit because we knew where we were going last, which was El Nido and Coron, and we knew that if you've looked at those videos, that those two destinations were spectacular, and we wanted to leave
On a high.
Yeah. And there was a few things that we wanted to do in Manila that we thought long and hard about, and we realised that we could probably miss them and move on, and leave the Philippines on a magical level, which we did. So in saying that, we cut our 39-day trip down to 36, but we think it could probably be done for
We think it could be done
the 29-day visa
in
period.
the 30-day visa period. So to give you a rough idea, we actually did get the idea for our itinerary from another YouTuber. I don't remember where, but yeah, we did look up some itineraries to try and figure out, because the Philippines is a big place and it's hard to know where to start and what order to do things in. So for us, we did Boracay, Malbol, Siquijor, Bohol, Cebu City, Puerto Princesa, Port Barton, El Nido and Coron. So basically we finished in Palawan, and we did that for a reason. We didn't want to start in Palawan because we felt that Palawan had the best that the Philippines had to offer, and we wanted to finish there rather than start there. So we were quite happy with what we had done as far as that goes. But yeah, we could have fit it into 30 days. If we had gone back and had our time again, we probably would have skipped Cebu City. We would have only spent one night in Puerto Princesa, spent less time in Bohol and more time in Port Barton. But again, you don't know until you get to a place and suss it out for yourself and see how you're feeling as to whether or not you want to spend less or more time. And because we had sort of booked things in, we weren't as flexible, I guess, with our changing of plans as what somebody would be if they were leaving it to the last minute. But we felt that the Philippines needed to have a bit of planning because it's not the easiest place to get from A to B, as we've said.
And somebody gets anxious when we don't.
Yeah, I'm a planner,
Plan.
so I do like to have things organised and planned. Spur of the moment changes don't sit well with me. They make me anxious.
Yeah.
So therefore we needed to have it a bit more.
All that being said,
planned.
I think we could have easily have spent 30 days in Palawan. We were told during our cultural tour in Puerto Princesa about the southern islands of Palawan as well and how beautiful they are.
And also the southern area of Palawan itself, with the like the north all for the islands and the island hopping, and then the southern parts, mountains and culture.
Yeah, could have easily spent our entire time in Palawan. The people there were beautiful.
Yeah, the people were lovely in Palawan.
I think that our itinerary that we did, we enjoyed and was right for us. Whether it's right for you, I don't know, but if you didn't want to go to the expense of extending your visa, 29 days, I think, is plenty of time.
Yeah, definitely.
Now we come to costs. We have, I guess, in terms of most nomadic travellers, quite a substantial budget. We do not want to skimp on some luxuries, as we've brushed on with our accommodation. We're not $20 a night people, but, you know, going through our costs, we feel that Molbol was probably the cheapest place to stay.
I think Molbol was the cheapest in general. Our accommodation in Molbol wasn't the cheapest that we had, but in general, food, massages, we kind of work on a massage economy in our budget. So if the massages are cheap, then we kind of know that things are cheaper. And in Molbol, the massages were like 400 pesos. Whereas most other places were 600, 700 and 800 pesos. So yeah, the massage budget was definitely cheaper in Molbol, and food in general was cheaper. So yeah, so that was really good.
So our budget for 35 days in the Philippines was about $7,000
Australian dollars,
and we ended up only coming in at 5.5. So we did save a substantial amount of money, more money than we thought we would.
Yeah, we thought the Philippines was going to break the budget.
Yeah,
come under the budget.
So we don't exactly know whether our budget is realistic, if it's too much, if it's too little. So we're sort of playing that one by ear, and we think that we are comfortably getting in under our budget.
So our budget is 200 Australian dollars a day, which is about 125 US dollars a day for two of us. Yeah.
Of those 35 days, we spent 2,300 in accommodation, or average of 63 Australian dollars per night. We like to do a lot of our own tours, so our tour budget wasn't blown by any means.
No.
720 Australian on the canyoneering, the day tours that we did in El Nido and Coron, the country bohol tour to the Chocolate Hills.
We deliberately didn't do many island hopping tours in the other places before we got to El Nido and Coron, even though there was the possibility to do certain tours like Upper Island and things like that. We chose not to because we were saving our money for the bigger destinations of El Nido and Coron, but also because we knew that they had the best offer. So we didn't feel like we needed to spend money on unnecessary tours when we could just wait until the end, and we don't regret doing that.
Not at all.
So, yeah.
Not at all. And speaking of our massage economy, we got 16 massages over our time in the Philippines, which cost us about $570.
So if you're not a massage person, you can save an extra $600 odd by not getting massages.
Yeah.
But I must say we went most days, or 16 over 35 days is not actually that much. I thought it was more than that. But yeah, and we also hired a scooter in some of the smaller destinations, as you would have seen in our videos. So yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah. So all in all, just shy of 100 US per day.
For two people.
For two people.
That's
for
good.
the entire trip in the Philippines.
Yeah, that doesn't include larger transfers. It's just local transport. So our things like our ferries and our flights were separate to that.
Yeah, separate budget.
But yeah, most of your food, accommodation, massages, tours, everything internal, smaller transport was under 100 US dollars a day for two people.
Yes.
And we didn't scrimp. Yeah.
We're keeping a track of our budget, but we're not scrutinising our budget.
Yeah.
If we want to spend it, we spend it.
Yeah.
we deal with it.
If we wanted to eat a nice meal, we'd eat a nice meal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was good.
Speaking of food, let's talk about the food in the Philippines. Now,
we struggled.
pre-warned that the Philippines are not known for the culinary arts.
Yeah, they're not known for their cuisine, such as the likes of Thailand or Vietnam, places like that are known for their food. The Philippines is not, to our mind, known for their food. So we didn't go there with the expectation that we were going to have fantastic food. And we did struggle. We struggled with the heaviness and the fattiness of the foods. And to us, most of it either seemed sweet or salty.
Yeah, sweet bread.
Sweet bread.
Did my head in every time I ate it.
With your bacon and eggs was a bit of a struggle. Just every bread we'd buy would be sweet. There was just no getting away from the sweet, and the butter was sweet. And we also noticed that there was a lot of Western options. So, you know, if we didn't want to have Filipino food and we didn't want to have rice, it was really hard because the other options were Western food, pizzas, pasta, burgers, hot dogs,
burgers,
fried chicken, French fries, like so many carbs. Back in Australia, I don't eat a lot of carbs. And here in the Philippines, I was like, my God, there's bread, there's rice, there's pasta, there's potato, it's everything all on one plate. We
did enjoy eating at the local restaurants. And there's another thing, it was often difficult in some places to even find a local place to eat.
Yeah.
But when we did, we really enjoyed it. One of the first things we ate was sizzling sisig,
which I really liked.
Now we know what's in it,
took
so
a
you don't have
liking
to
for that to start with, so that was really good. That was the first dish we ate actually in Boracay was what I had.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. We enjoyed that. We also enjoyed the lechon that we had in Panglao, which was really nice with the soup that sort of cut through the fattiness of the lechon, and that little pickle
made the dish, brought it all together.
So that was really nice. Pete also had a really nice beef pares, which was that beef stew soup thing that you had in Siquijor, I think that was. Mm-hmm. The barbecue chickens were amazing. Just
the ones off the street by the little shacks.
The little rotisserie chickens.
My God, that barbecue chicken that we had just up the road from our place in Bohol, Panglao.
Yeah, just at the end of the street.
Looked like you would get salmonella poisoning. But my God, it was some of the best chicken we've ever had.
Yeah,
it was so good.
Chicken was amazing. Just so tender and juicy, and the flavour goes right through. Pork adobo, I had a really nice pork adobo at the same place you had that beef pares.
Yep.
So yeah, we did eat some nice foods. Generally, if you're going to an eatery, it will be food that's kind of served out of bain-maries or pots, and you might be a little concerned about eating that. And at some places we were a little concerned because the food was literally just room temperature.
Yeah.
It wasn't hot and it wasn't cold, but it was room temperature. We didn't get sick. I don't know how, but we didn't get sick the whole time we were in the Philippines. But yeah, it was hard to find just the restaurants that were serving the local food that was freshly cooked rather than the eateries that was already pre-cooked.
And one thing that we found was missing from the Philippines was street markets.
Yeah, like
food
just a
markets.
night market where you can just go and have
market.
A little bit of this and a little bit of that. Yeah, there just wasn't really that culture.
We couldn't find it if there was.
Yeah. We may have missed it, I'm not sure, but we just didn't see that kind of culture like we do in Thailand.
There was lots of vendors setting up on the side of a street, but not a specific place to go to where they are all in the one spot.
It was good, as I said, hits and misses, and by the end of it, my body was just craving some vegetables and some salad.
Yeah.
Just something a bit lighter.
Safety and security. Did you feel safe?
I did feel safe. I didn't feel unsafe.
No, I can't say that there was ever a time where we were walking anywhere and felt unsafe.
No.
I think safety-wise, the Philippines is pretty safe to travel around. In saying that, we didn't spend much time in Manila.
No, we didn't spend a lot of time in cities.
Can't comment about that.
So most of ours was island experiences, and so in general in those places we felt safe and secure. As we've touched on in the rooms, there's not a lot of safes available, so perhaps making sure that you have some padlocks on your bags or a motion detection alarm or a camera, something like that would be a good idea.
Definitely. We bought, before we came away on holidays, a motor vehicle canopy alarm. It goes off when it detects motion. We packed that and we now use that regularly. So if anybody touches anything we don't want them to touch, it will trigger an alarm. In the destination that we've come to now, Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, we've bought a camera now, which we connect to the room Wi-Fi.
Yeah, we can set that up in our rooms now.
And we can set that up in each room, and we can monitor what's happening inside the room. Not to harp on it too much, we did have some money stolen while we were in one of the hotels. Not sure which one,
We
so
don't
we're
know
not going to
where.
go into detail. I'm not going to tell you how much it was, but it was a significant amount. So it's prompted us to be a little more careful with our belongings and our valuables moving forward, because obviously we've got another 10 plus months
Exactly.
of this.
And that motion alarm was also handy when we were going to the beach to set up on our belongings on the beach, because when you go in the water you're not really sure what's happening with your stuff. So
Yeah, somebody could
we
just
used
walk
that
along and pick it up and
a
take
few
it.
times on the beach as well, which was good.
Yeah.
But things like walking around at night time, I didn't feel unsafe. I don't think I would have walked around on my own, but walking together as a couple, I didn't feel unsafe at all. And I think the other thing we noticed also with the Philippines was the lack of scams. We didn't feel like anybody was trying to scam us at any point. Wasn't people coming up trying to
Sell us condos.
sell you things that weren't legitimate, or trying to get you into their shop for whatever reason. So that was really quite refreshing, actually.
Speaking of people, thoughts on the people?
We did have some mixed experiences. I think the general consensus is that Filipinos are very friendly people, and that is true. We did find in some cases that we were ignored when we went into shops or restaurants.
One
And that-
particular case was the young lady behind the counter in a restaurant that we went into literally kept texting and
didn't even
looking
look
at her
up to
phone.
acknowledge us.
Didn't even look up to acknowledge us, and we
walked out.
So,
And I don't know if that's because the level of English proficiency does vary from place to place. Even though we assume that all Filipinos speak English, that's not necessarily the case, and that their level of English is better in some cases than others. So we were told that perhaps people were a bit shy and weren't willing to communicate, so that's fair enough. But overall, we did notice that in Palawan specifically, the people were overall very, very friendly and approachable and welcoming and helpful in the whole of Palawan. So big shout out to those people that we met in Palawan who were so lovely. Island hopping tours.
so your level of fitness needs to be up here somewhere for the island hopping tours in El Nido and Coron, more so El Nido.
Yes, definitely. El Nido, as you would have seen from our videos, you have to actually enter from the beach. So getting onto the boat can be quite a challenge to start with.
When you're chest height in water, you've got to get your leg up around that sort of, water line to the steps, because they don't go far below the water line. It can be challenging.
Yeah, definitely. And you also have to be mindful that in El Nido you're going to be wet all day, because obviously you've got to strip off straight away to get to the boat. And then every destination you're getting into the water to access the beach or the lagoons or the kayaks or whatever you're getting into. And at the end of the day, you're also coming back to the beach and getting wet once again before you get to go home.
Exactly.
So it's very exciting.
Whereas Coron is different. Coron has a pier. It's one of those little floaty ones that always give people a good laugh when they're at the beach. But at least it's a pier. You can walk on it, you can jump straight on the boat, and you stay dry, which is good.
Yes, until you get to your destinations where yet again you're having to clamber down into the water. So definitely not for someone who just wants to sit back and just enjoy the views, because you do sort of have to interact with these tours.
Exactly.
Best
Best lagoons. Boats. Yes, boats first.
The boats.
So the boats that we took, or the boat that we took in El Nido, was a little bigger than the two that we took in Coron. It was better quality. You could walk around the outside edge of it.
Yeah, a bit more space.
It just, in general, looked like it was better looked after. The two in Coron were probably not as big, not as well looked after, probably a little more uncomfortable. One in
Definitely.
particular.
Those wooden slat seats, and the second one that we took, like it was literally felt like it was falling apart the whole time.
Yes.
But yeah, very good.
Lagoons,
Yes.
El Nido or Coron?
We personally felt that the lagoons in El Nido were better. And I think that was just because of the access once we were in the lagoons. So we're in there in the kayaks. The water was shallow. We could get out. We could have a little swim. The impact on the scenery and the clearness of the water and the blue water, the little beach.
The wow factor at water level was definitely better in El Nido. From the air, much
They
of a
both look
muchness.
Spectacular from the air.
But at
Yeah.
water level, definitely El Nido.
Yeah, and the cliffs in El Nido, to me, from water level, just appeared so much higher and a bit more wow as you're going in. Whereas when we pulled up at Coron, I didn't get that sort of wow
That sense of
factor.
awe.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the second lagoon in Coron, the second of the twin lagoon, was also quite deep. You know, there were a lot of people swimming around, and it just didn't have that sort of impact that the Cadlow lagoon in El Nido had for us.
Snorkeling was definitely better in Coron.
Yeah, for sure.
And in saying that, Coral Garden, we've done snorkeling throughout Southeast Asia. We've done the Great Barrier Reef, but we would rate Coral Garden in Coron as one of the best in Asia that we've ever snorkeled. It wasn't super deep, so you could see a lot. The coral was so colourful.
The clarity in the water.
And the clarity in the water.
Yeah, even though it was a little
made
bit
made a
choppy,
big difference.
but the clarity in the water, you could just, the visibility was amazing, and the variety of fish, and yeah, the pristineness of that coral was really good. It had been looked after and not been trampled on, and that snorkeling was stunning. Even the second one that you went in, you said was quite good too.
The skeleton wreck, old Japanese ship that was sunk, it was deep, but it wasn't deep enough that you couldn't see it. So you had to dive down a bit to get a really good view of it, which I did. But if you also went off to the side a little bit, there was a coral shelf, which was clearer, and even that was quite nice. There was a lot more marine life there to see, which was really good to see as well.
That's
So,
good. Beaches?
Beaches. Look, I think they both have their appeal, but I think the water clarity in Coron takes the win.
We got that Boracay blue that I kept referring to in the videos in the beaches in Coron. That said, we did do the island escapade tour, which was a mission in itself. We didn't realise that it was going to be 2 hours on that boat out to the first stop. And when the guide said that we were going to be travelling for 2 hours, we all just thought he was joking, because, you know, they like to joke and say, oh yeah, we're going to be 2 hours and it's 20 minutes. But it legitimately was 2 hours on this hard little bench seats. Yeah, you wouldn't have wanted to have, you know, any injuries or be much older than us, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was not comfortable.
So out of El Nido, most of the tours take 15, 20 minutes to get to your destination. The lagoons and the snorkeling and everything out of Coron is much the same. It's the close island, and it only takes 10 to 20 minutes to get to any destination. So when we were told that the first beach was 2 hours away,
it was a shock,
yeah,
but
we
when we
nearly
got
had
to that
connections.
first place, it was so worth it. Like that whole day was just amazing, and the beaches were so nice, and the clarity of the water and that blueness, and you know, just looking back on that video, it's like just wow.
Yeah,
how
definitely
clear that
worth the trip.
Yeah, and the food on those tours was all very good as well. We had some good food.
Yeah, I think it
So yeah,
got
overall.
like it started off exceptional, and then in Coron it was really good, and then the last one
Wasn't as good,
wasn't as good.
but yeah, it was, and for the
They-
value for money on those tours though.
yeah,
it's very good value for
$67 or $62 depending on which
Yeah.
one you chose
money. Much cheaper
for
than
two of
Thailand
us.
for tours.
Yeah, you know, in Thailand we've done a similar thing, John Gray Hongs by Starlight, and it was over $200 for the two of us. So to do these tours for under $100 for the both of us is quite good value for money.
Definitely good value for money, but definitely a good day out.
Our massage economy, the massages in the Philippines, we're prone to a good massage.
Yes, just thought we would point out for you guys, if you've travelled to Thailand and Bali, the different types of massages. So in the Philippines, a standard relaxing massage with oil is called a Swedish massage. We didn't know. We were in Boracay and we went into a spa wanting a massage. We're like, we've got no idea, what does all this mean? She said, you want a Swedish massage?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the basic one. Prices range.
$350 through to $800 we paid. And by no means is that quality related. Like we had
some good ones
and some bad ones, some expensive ones and that were rubbish, and some good ones that
on
were
average probably 600 to 700 pesos
roughly
for an hour. So upwards of $20 Australian, which is about the prices that we pay in Thailand these days for a massage. Bali is still the cheapest at $12 Australian for 1 hour. But overall, the massages were pretty good in the Philippines, and we enjoyed them.
Very much so. Which brings us to our last topic, which is more just an observation, I guess, in that missed opportunities from destinations and locations in the Philippines. The biggest thing that we found, and this is up your alley, was the street art, or the absence of.
Yeah, I just thought that, there's a lot of ugly kind of buildings that are, not well maintained as such, and it would be nice to see some more street art and murals like we've got, in places like Malaysia and Thailand, where you see a lot of revamped, I guess, into areas that people want to come and take photos and
it's a draw card.
Instagram spots. Yeah, some draw card.
Other than beautiful beaches and beautiful countryside, it gets people into places that they otherwise normally wouldn't go to or think of.
And it's not a lot of effort to do it, and I'm sure that there are some very talented artists in the Philippines that would be able to transform some of those buildings and areas into something that people want to wander through, and that then encourages people to come and spend money and buy things, which I think is really nice as well.
In those areas, and then the last one is very, very basic, very simple. We love in Thailand to just be wandering and come across a little food stand that's selling fresh fruit that's chopped up into little edible pieces. It's just like a little refreshing snack. Yeah,
it's in a cup ready to eat.
And we could not find that anywhere.
No, there's plenty of fruit. There's fruit stands selling mangoes, bananas, pineapples, all sorts of things. But as tourists, we don't have the capacity to go and cut those up and make them easy to eat. Bananas, fair enough, that's easy to eat. But pineapple, you buy a pineapple, what am I going to do with that pineapple?
Without a very sharp knife.
Yeah, without a sharp knife. So having that sort of already prepared and ready to eat, we didn't find a lot of in those island areas, which was a bit of a shame because we would have liked that. But yeah, that's just a simple thing that we just sort of noticed, like, oh, they don't have that here, and that would have been nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall,
the Philippines was fantastic.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
Obviously, there was ups and downs, but that's nothing against the Philippines. That's just
traveling
in general.
Yeah.
I want to say a big shout out to our Philippine followers that commented on our videos and
gave us some ideas
about places to visit that we hadn't otherwise normally thought of visiting. I think that there is definitely a trip on the cards to come back to the Philippines and explore some of those locations that you've mentioned. We are obviously doing the Philippines, or had done the Philippines for the first time, and we wanted to go to the main areas.
Yeah, because it was our first impression of the country.
Yeah, exactly. So, whilst we had done a lot of research about where we wanted to go, getting your ideas and your information has been beneficial to planning our second trip. So thank you. We've appreciated it.
Yeah, we hope that you'll continue to follow along on our journey, even as we move on through other countries. We're in Malaysia at the moment. We've got other exciting plans later this year as well. So we hope that you'll keep being interested and keep watching us as we follow through, and perhaps we'll return to the Philippines one day.
Yeah, 7 weeks in, still loving it. Haven't killed each other yet.
No.
And we've got 10 plus months to go.
That's
so
it.
stick around, come along for the ride, and we hope that you'll get something from our videos.
Yes. And we'll catch you later. Bye.
Bye.